We will be sending letters out here once the assessment is approved.
All right. Just kind of wondering what you can read into that for trends, you know? 2,576 parcels, is that like 10% of our parcels, give or take? Huh. Well. All right. Council, any questions on this?
Mayor,
Councilmember Carlson?
make a motion to adopt resolution number 25-105, resolution certifying delinquent utilities to taxes.
Second.
Motion by Carlson, a second by Armstrong. Is there discussion on this?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Geisler?
question for Ms. Hanson. So delinquent will be over 90 days past due, but what's the delineator?
So our Councilmember Geisler, our typical process is to take any outstanding balances as of the end of July. And then, so it's a yearly look back at that point. So we pull that in, and then any outstanding payment before, so the due date to the county is November 15th. So any delinquent amount of that balance that's pulled as of November 10th will get certified. So historically, the amount always starts high. It does include one of our cycles ends up with just one of their summer bills where if they haven't paid it just because of the timing. But they do tend to drop. Typically, we will end up assessing around 60% of the original amount.
Okay, thank you.
I actually think this is an incredible service, because there are communities that maybe not around here, but when I go to national conferences, there are communities that turn water off for non-payment, and it's like, well, we just levy it against the taxes. Eventually, we're going to get paid. You know, but- All right. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. Item 14 is to consider introduction of ordinances amending chapters 8-100, 8-500, and sections 8-903, 8-904, and 8-905. Mr. Brody, you're going to give us the update on this one?
I think it's going to be Mr. Brown, even though my name is on it. Yes, we didn't rehearse this beforehand, but I think he's
Mr.
right.
Brown?
Yes, I can provide a quick overview. You may remember the council talked about this update in work sessions in both March and September of this year. This is basically a housekeeping update to the code enforcement or property maintenance sections of our city code. The goal is just to kind of update the language, make it clearer, so in the event any of our residents receive a courtesy notice or a citation, it's just clearer. Everything is kind of consolidated into a few sections of the code, so it doesn't include really any substantive changes, primarily just housekeeping.
All right. Anybody have any questions of Mr. Brown on this?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Geisler?
just a general comment that, again, I always thank staff for their efforts to clean this up, to make it easier for folks to understand what we want them to do. So all of this is always worthwhile, I think, we want people to know what we want them to do and make it easy for them to do it. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, we will consider the amendments of chapters 8-100, 8-500, and sections 8- you know what? I'm going to read the bottom instead of the top. Sorry. We are going to consider the ordinances amending chapters 8-100 nuisances, 8-500 maintenance of vegetation and landscaping, and sections 8-903, 8-904, and 8-905, storage of wood. We're going to consider those introduced, and we will be readdressing these at a future council meeting. Item 15 is to consider planning case 25-12, consider a comprehensive plan amendment for 2831 113th Avenue Northwest, City of Coon Rapids. Mr. Patzner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council members have combined 15 and 16 into the same presentation because they regard the same lot. But this is the old Fire Station 3, where the city has requested proposals for potential single-family home development from developers. Coming out ahead of accepting a proposal, city staff are requesting that the property be re-guided in the comprehensive plan and rezoned to be the correct comprehensive plan land use guidance and zoning for single-family homes. So it's a 2-acre site under the 3-acre threshold for a PUD, so a rezoning to something other than a PUD will be required for this. Proposals for single-family homes for this property would generally be 7 or 8 single-family home lots, depending on the arrangement. So what's being requested by staff is to re-guide this from institutional in the 2040 comprehensive plan, which doesn't allow for residential development, to low-density residential, which would allow for residential development at 3 to 5 units per acre, and then a request to rezone the property from MDR, or moderate density residential, in the bottom half, and low-density residential 2 in the top half, to low-density residential 3, which is the new zoning district that was created this year. And that would be for the entire property. So staff are proposing a rezoning to LDR3 in order to properly utilize the property for single-family homes and have efficient use of the space. So just a reminder, the LDR3 zoning district has a minimum lot area, 7,200 square feet, 50% lot coverage, a minimum lot width of 60 feet, minimum lot depth of 120 feet, and then 25-foot front and rear and 7.5-foot side setbacks for residential use. So just a mock-up of what the property could look like under LDR3 district standards. And it is worth noting that under almost any arrangement of property, 1 or possibly 2 variances would be required. The main reason for that is the depth between 113th Avenue to the south and 113th Lane, which runs through the property, is just under 240 feet. So it would not be possible to have 2 120-foot deep lots. So there likely would be a variance request along with any platting of this property. However, this is just a visual to show what 7 lots on the property could look like. There's a drainage and utility easement running north and south through the middle of the property that's represented by dotted blue lines. It's a 30-foot wide easement, I believe. And then a second mock-up showing what 8 lots could look like. So that northeastern lot south of 113th Lane could be divided into 2. And then the northwestern lot south of 113th Lane could be reduced in size a little bit. And then that northern lot north of 113th Lane, it might be close to the 120-foot depth. So that's where a second variance may be requested by a potential future applicant looking to plat the property. So with this, all staff are requesting is that the council approve the resolution re-guiding the property and then introduce the ordinance rezoning the property. And this is just to get the entitlements in place for a developer whose proposal the city may accept for residential development. So I did list recommended findings of fact for the comp plan amendment and for the rezoning ordinance, and these findings are basically the same for each. And these are listed in the packet. I'd be happy to discuss these further on request, but I do want to move along. So with this, I have a recommended motion for item 15, which is a motion to adopt Resolution 25-108. And then for item 16, I have the recommendation to introduce the ordinance rezoning the property. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Any questions of Mr. Patzner on this?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Butler?
I move that in planning case 25-12, the city council adopt resolution 25-108, approving the proposed comprehensive plan amendment based on the following findings. 1, the proposed amendment would not have an adverse impact on the surrounding area. 2, the proposed amendment is compatible with adjacent land uses and zoning. And 3, the proposed amendment is consistent with future land use guidance and policies of the 2040 comprehensive plan.
Second.
Motion by Butler and a second by Geisler. Is there further discussion on this?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Butler?
I just want to thank staff for working on this. You know, I know this was sort of an awkward property. It's kind of hard to figure out what would fit there. We do have a housing affordability problem in Coon Rapids. I think every little bit helps, and I just want to thank staff again for finding this opportunity.
All right, any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. Item 16 is the ordinance rezoning to LDR3. This is the introduction only. Does anybody have any questions of Mr. Patzner on this? If not,
Mr. Mayor.
go ahead.
Just to reiterate to the public, this is exactly why we created LDR3, was for these little tiny infills, to maximize their value to the city and to its residents. So this is a good spot to try it out and see how it works with our developer friends.
Yeah, that's a good point, because when you're in a primarily developed community, really all you've got is little infills here and there. All right, any other questions of Mr. Pastor or comments? Hearing none. In planning case 25-13, we will consider the ordinance rezoning the subject property based on the following three findings introduced. Is that good, or do you want me to read those? It's good, all right. That was item 16. Item 17. Got a big real estate sale here. Mr. Brown?
Yes, $1,100. This is a .11 acre remnant parcel. If you can kind of picture the berm along Crooked Lake Boulevard where it runs along Highway 10. Back about 25 years ago, when the city had realigned that street, a number of properties were purchased. Most of the remnants were sold to adjacent property owners. For whatever reason, this one was not, perhaps because the neighbor at the time wasn't really interested in it. We were approached just recently by the current owner of property at 12339 Gladiola Street. He is interested in purchasing this. So the council's asked to introduce the ordinance authorizing the sale. Once that ordinance is considered for adoption in a couple of weeks, you will also consider a purchase agreement.
All right, thank you. It appears there's only one little remnant left there, and it's probably like 4 feet or something. So, all right. All right, anybody have any questions of Mr. Brown on this? If not, we will consider the ordinance authorizing the sale of real estate at 123XX Gladiola Street introduced. And item 18 is to consider introduction of an ordinance establishing fees for 2026. Ms. Hanson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. In front of you today is an ordinance to establish fees for certain establish an ordinance for certain fees. Our city code calls for some fees to be established by ordinance and some fees to be established by resolution. For ease of presentation, we are presenting them all in one fee schedule here. So for 2026, what we did was take a look at our existing fees and then applied a 4% adjustment factor that relates to our proposed budget for 2026. If the amounts were rounded up enough, then a recommendation to change that fee is being made. Some of the notable ones, business licensing, we do have some fees that are proposed to increase by that 4%. The state is taking over cannabis license fees, so we are transitioning out of the THC license fees, are being phased out. There are no changes to building inspection or permit fees, except for an increase in the refundable escrow for new residential construction. We'll see recommending slight increases in golf and recreational fees in terms of building rentals. Rental licensing, we're proposing to add a fee to encourage timely renewals. And then the fees that are most impactful to residents would be the utility fees. So over the last few years, we've done a lot of long-range planning related to our water, sewer, and stormwater, making sure that we have enough revenue to cover, significant capital investments into our community. So for 2026, along with those plans, we're proposing an overall 8% increase in water rates. That would translate to a $2 increase in the base fee per quarter for residential, or actually it's for all accounts. And then the multifamily per unit per quarter would increase 70 cents. And then the usage rates increased by 20 cents, 25 cents, and 30 cents per 1,000 gallons. Sewer fees were proposing a 5% increase. That would translate to a $1.75 increase on the base fee for a quarter, and then usage fees would increase by 15 cents per 1,000 gallons. We did see an increase in the disposal charges from Met Council significantly, a couple $100,000, so an increase in the usage fee is justified to help pay for that fee. And then stormwater, we're requesting a 5% increase. That would be, for a single-family residential fee, would be increased from $18.48 to $19.40 per quarter. Overall, an average residential user would see a increase of $46.18 over the year, so less than $5 a month. The second item on the agenda would be to set a public hearing for certain fees related to liquor. So that would be the off-sale, on-sale 3.2 malt liquor licenses, the tavern license, and the on-sale intoxicating liquor license, the micro distillery cocktail room license, and the brewer tap room. Council's asked to set the public hearing for October 21st, 2025. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
The one outlier on here seems to be the on-sale intoxicating liquor license going up $500. Is there a reason? Is that more labor intensive or?
Mr. Mayor, that number is bigger because that license fee is bigger. It's just
Well, I mean, I
it's the
get that,
inflationary
but is,
piece,
but is it percentage?
percentage, our costs to manage and conduct compliance inspections and all of the staff-related requirements for managing an on-sale license have gone up and will
Okay.
go up next year. So that's our proposal. We're open for conversation, of course.
Yeah, no, I was just curious.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Butler?
I had the same exact thought looking at this. I appreciate that it went up 4%, just like all the other proposed revenues. And I appreciate why overall that license is substantially more than anything else in the book. I don't think there's any business license anywhere close to that because there's not as much enforcement. But I was thinking to myself, if there's any way we could provide even just a slightly smaller increase, it might be worth it, given that my understanding is historically it's always gone up about 4%. That does start compounding as you're looking at 11,000, 12,000. And, I'm not saying we should just keep it flat, but, even if it's 400 instead of 500 or 350, I would love to have that conversation if folks are interested.
I always have that Walmart thing, if you can just get her below that 12,000, That 11,900, it just doesn't sound as much,
11,990,
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Geisler?
And I know we're just introducing tonight, so just
Right.
making some comments. I guess I personally, I watch the state warn notice list, and I just have it feed into my inbox, which tells you who's closing and how many people are getting laid off. And that list has been about 3 times busier this year than last year. So I have concerns, not so much about, I think the water, the utility stuff, we have a lot of deep grounding of how those costs get to there. But from the business licensing perspective, I worry about putting additional pressure when it's not going so great right now. And, the increases, while they will generate some money, don't generate a ton of money, but can mean a lot to a business, especially if they're already being pinched on supply side, especially if they're being pinched on lower traffic. So I have some questions on the one-time licenses. I think it makes sense keeping those up, things that we do once, planning things, those kinds of activities. But the annual uplift for when, every business, it just gets more expensive every year, which contributes to more and more. So I do have some concern about just keeping the press there when it's hard right now, and it's harder than it has been. And I don't know how much I want to contribute to that right now. So that's, I don't have a specific adjustment in mind. I don't have a specific number. But I do have just concerns about pushing in that space currently.
How much can we wiggle that number and still consider this introduced? I mean, it's just an introduction tonight. We'll move on it at the next meeting. But if between now and then we think, boy, if that was 11,750 or something, and there was a consensus, is that something that we could do then, or would we have to reintroduce?
I think, given the fact that we would be moving down, and the changes probably aren't going to be dramatic one way or the other, even if we wanted to move up, that we're probably okay leaving it as is, that we consider it introduced tonight, and then we could adopt it even with some small tweaks at the next next meeting.
Okay.
Because, and essentially, most of it, I presume the fees are going to stay as they are introduced.
Okay. Councilmember Butler?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd be interested too in just seeing sort of what our projections are for the cost of enforcement next year, because I agree, the cost of enforcement's gonna go up. I don't necessarily wanna just say we're gonna keep it flat with no increase, but seeing those options of, oh, if we raised it $150, maybe we're short for enforcement, or if we raise it to 400, are we still okay, but maybe not as close as we'd like, and, you know, we would have a bit of time in the next couple weeks to get that information.
Yeah, I mean, I just know as, those guys, when they write that check every year, you know, it's a big check to write, and when.
We need a drink.
Right? So, all right. Any other questions or discussion on this? Okay, hearing none. We will consider an ordinance to establish fees effective January 1st, 2026, introduced. And we will set a public hearing for October 21st, 2025 at 7 PM regarding fee increases for certain alcoholic beverage licenses. And that would include those, right? So that would be an opportunity for adjustment and for discussion.
That's correct, Mayor and Council. We will also be notifying current license holders of the proposed increase, so we'll see if there's any feedback related to the proposal.
Thank you. Okay, so that's introduced. Item 19 is to consider Resolution 25-110, amending the 2025 fee schedule to add registration fees for cannabis businesses. Ms. Letzmeyer.
Mayor and council members, as noted in the memo, the Office of Cannabis Management has announced their intent to begin licensure of low-potency hemp, what we have called in our code THC. That license period opened, or application period with the state opened October 1, will end at the end of October, and that would mean that the licensing then falls away from the city and goes to OCM. So now what we need is a registration fee. We're allowed to require them to register and collect that $125 registration fee, which is the state's offering for our compliance requirements that we need to do. The other thing staff is proposing is a temporary cannabis event permit. We did not add that yet. It needs to be added because it is something that I believe will be coming along because they're starting to get those licenses organized and ready at the state level. Staff suggests a fee of $2,500 for those temporary events to cover all of the potential enforcement situations we could incur. And I'll answer any questions.
Will that cover the overtime, do you think, for having a cannabis event in town? Will they have buses, or how are they going to get them home? I don't, you know.
One of the conditions of our, under the cannabis ordinance that we did enact is that there is no use at the cannabis event.
Really?
No on-site consumption
No
is how it
on-site
reads.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, interesting.
Doesn't mean they're gonna, I don't know, but.
All right.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Geisler.
So, Mr. Brody, a temporary cannabis event is defined in that ordinance, in the cannabis ordinance
Yeah,
then?
there's a state statute regarding it, as well as our ordinance when we enacted our cannabis ordinance that addresses it, the requirements to get a permit, things like that, the conditions on that permit.
Excellent, thank you.
Mr.
All
Mayor,
right. Councilmember Carlson.
make a motion to adopt Resolution 25-110, amending the city's adopted 2025 fee schedule.
Second.
Motion by Carlson and a second by Griscoviac. Is there just, wasn't it? Was it Butler?
Yeah.
All right.
It was Butler.
Okay. Motion by Carlson, second by Butler. Is there further discussion on this?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Butler?
I'd just like to express to our staff that as we're thinking about feedback to the legislature, it would be good to give feedback that at least having some sort of exception for inflationary increases in this fee makes sense. It feels really weird that we're discussing 4% inflation for business fees, and then the next item is $125, and that's it.
Yep.
Mayor and council, that certainly something we can raised as part of our legislative platform. As council may recall, we were supposed to also receive some cannabis aid, which was taken off the table this past session. It was, here and gone too quickly. So, the whole area around cannabis and the adult use cannabis law will evolve, I'm sure, over the next several years, and there'll be opportunities, I'm sure, to provide that feedback.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
All right, Councilmember Geisler?
Since we're talking about, I think it'd be great to make sure we collect what our actual enforcement fees are, what our times are, to give hard facts back of if we got $125 and it cost 125 plus X and Y. Providing that back is pretty concrete information of we're not getting it back, so
Yep.
I think that'd be mindful.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Griscoviac?
so if I'm reading this right, the fee is just a flat $125 for cannabis. And is this similar to, I mean, it's $11,600 for liquor.
Well, this is just our
Just-
registration
just a
fee. The
registration
state
fee.
gets the license fee, correct?
Mr. Mayor and Councilmember Griscoviac, yes. So we were allowed to do licensure through the city, and we had set our fee the same as our intoxicating liquor because similar compliance concerns and costs. And now that goes away, and yes, there's a license fee through the state for the low-level hemp, and the state only allows us to do what's called a registration, and they set the allowed amount at $125 per year.
So this is it, our police have to, verify and check and make compliance checks and, figure out, is it actually low potency or high potency, and $125 to cover all that.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Griscoviac, that's correct. The situation is, as City Manager Stemwaddle mentioned, that was with the understanding that because we were not allowed to charge an actual license fee, we were going to receive proceeds, right? And now that's off the table, so it would seem fair that we have a conversation about making an amendment to that and allowing us to control the license fee, but we shall see.
Okay, and I think to Council Geisler's point, we need to keep track of what this is costing the city and our taxpayers, and then lobby
Conducting
the
the
legislature to reimburse us or do something.
Yeah, correct. The compliance check alone is
Yeah.
125 on, it's not going to cover it, so.
Thank you.
All right, any further discussion? We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 25-110, I'm sorry, 25-110, amending the city's adopted 2025 fee schedule. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. Item 20 is to consider a memorandum of understanding with Anoka Hennepin District 11 for School Resource and Prevention Program Officer Services. Mr. Steiner.
Thank you, Mayor Cook and council members. Before you tonight is the request to approve the memorandum of understanding with the long word for SRO, for School Resource Officer now. And that's for the 2025-2026 school year. We're already back in school. We're running a little behind here, which isn't all that uncommon. Working out some contract language and whatnot that still is being tweaked from what happened a few years ago with the School Resource Officer Program. But this will provide funding in about $332,345 for School Resource Officer Services for the Coon Rapids High School, Coon Rapids Middle School, Northdale Middle School, River Trail Learning Center, and the Compass programs. It also includes money for Teaching DARE, which we do at all the elementary schools, or the public elementary schools, rather. And as you know, we have a long history with the School Resource Officer Program. Maybe the longest in the state, depends who you ask, I think. A couple people claim that, but we've been there since 1974, and Teaching DARE since 1989. So it's our recommendation that the council approve the 2025-2026 Memorandum of Understanding with the school district.
All right, any questions of Mr. Steiner?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Carlson?
this one's kind of near and dear to me. Make a motion to approve the 25-26 Memorandum of Understanding for School Resource and Prevention Program Officer Services with Anoka Hennepin School District 11.
Second.
Motion by Carlson and a second by Armstrong. Is there further discussion on this?
Mr. Mayor?
Council- No, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Carlson,
I mean-
go ahead.
These are great programs. And it's not just the like immediacy too, some of the relationships that you build and such like with the kids, it's really incredible. And when you look at, you know, with the SRO program going back to 1974 with Pete Bieberg, yeah, just, like I said, it's about the relationships and the kind of that small town feel in the schools where everybody knows the school cop kind of a thing. It's really a good thing. I was one of those people for 27 years. I've been doing DARE and SRO. It's just such a valuable, those are valuable programs. Not just for whatever the kids learn at the moment, but just for those relationships.
All right.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Armstrong?
I just want to echo that. If you go to any of the high school football games or any of the sporting events where law enforcement needs to be there, a lot of our city events, et cetera, you see kids from middle school, high school coming up and talking to these officers like they're buddies. And if somebody doesn't think that these SROs don't make a difference, they need to go out and get out in the public and look, because they make a fantastic difference.
Agreed. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? And that motion passes. Thank you, Chief Steiner. Item 21 is to consider Resolution 25-109, accepting grant funds from Coon Creek Watershed District and approve water quality cost share agreement. You want me to just read the details, or Mr. Himmer, you want to do this one?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor, Council, I'll give you a brief overview. It's yet another request for some water quality grants through the Coon Creek Watershed District. We received some complaints or concerns about just some channel issues right in the manufactured home park just south of Egret Boulevard there. It's on Woodcrest Creek. It feeds right into Coon Creek. It appears as if some people have taken liberties with how they're grading and what they're doing. So we're going to work with that property owner on making sure this sticks in the long run. We estimated the cost around $52,000, so we applied for what they would match up to 50%. So we do have funds in our stormwater utility for maintenance of ditch channels for this, and we thought we'd supplement our funds. So we applied for the grant and we're successful. So I'm happy to answer questions about this.
All right, excellent. Any questions of Mr. Himmer on this?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Butler?
I move that we adopt the Resolution 25-109, accepting grant funds from the Coon Creek Watershed District and authorize execution of the water quality cost share agreement.
Second.
Motion by Butler and a second by Geisler. Is there discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. Item 22 is to consider Resolution 25-115, terminating participation in the North Metro Regional Street Maintenance JPA. Mr. Himmer, you don't play well with others, or what's going on?
Mr. Mayor, Council, that's not the case at all. I think this consortium, this joint powers agreement has overrun its course through evolution. It has turned into something far beyond what was established to be, and quite frankly, it's probably part of our doing in trying to add more into a program, but trying to administer that for multiple cities and the time constraints it puts on us for opting out and awarding contracts, not to mention we're one of the biggest users of the program, so the economies of scale have kind of lost their luster. So it's really the time commitment and the work we put into it and the liability that comes with something like that. We've been trying to work with that group to keep it going, and it will still continue. And we're happy to assist them in any way we can. But I think for the benefit of the city and for what we do, we're going to continue to do the program, but we're going to do it in-house, and we'll be able to be a little more efficient with how we do that. So it's not an easy choice, but I think it's the right choice, and I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Yeah, it really became a very large thing to maintain, and this makes sense. Any questions of Mr. Himmer?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Carlson?
Make a motion to adopt Resolution 25-115, terminating participation in the North Metro Regional Street Maintenance JPA.
Second.
Motion by Carlson and a second by Armstrong. Is there discussion on this?
Mr.
Councilmember Geisler?
I just wanted to since it's not overly visible, we discussed this quite a bit at a work session and why we're doing it and what its costs and what the benefits are to the city. So we have quite a bit of background going into this of why we're doing it. It's not just snapping out. But I appreciate Mr. Himmer and his staff walking through basically the cost-benefit analysis. And I hope the other communities can figure it out to keep getting a benefit from it. But we need to look after Coon Rapids first, so.
Councilmember Butler?
That was Griscovian.
Oh, Councilmember Griscoviak.
We sound alike.
Well, you're so far away, I don't know.
I should have moved closer. Sean's not here. No, I want to basically echo the same thing. We talked about this a couple of times in work session, but I just wanted, everyone to be aware. We're not, the regional street program isn't being abolished. We're just stepping away from it. So it's not like we've left all those other communities where we've been lead agency all those years, high and dry. It's still going to be there for them. We're just moving out of it right now. Just wanted to be clear.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Armstrong?
Yep. I will echo that as well. With a lot of these contracts, when they've been around for years, or agreements, when they've been around for years and years and years, sometimes it's difficult to step away from the legacy type stuff and reevaluate it. So kudos to you for recognizing this and for looking out for the city's best interest.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. Item 23 is to consider an agreement and Resolution 25-116, budget amendment for a failing retaining wall. Mr. Himmer.
Yes, Mayor, Council. This is a wall that has been in rough shape for a little while. We've kind of been keeping an eye on it, hoping that either through some redevelopment project or a street reconstruction project that we may be able to address it with the funding source. We've noticed chunks now started to fall into the roadway, and there's really not a lot of room between this wall and the roadway. So it's becoming a hazard now that we need to resolve. But kudos to our staff again. They really looked at, do we just rebuild it in its current configuration? There's no room to build it. We would have to close the road down. So we've been working with some area residents that we can stage on their property. One resident with the agreement here has been so gracious to allow us to grade it back to reduce the height of that wall in exchange for just planting some trees and doing some screening. So it improves his ability to maintain it. It gives us a smaller wall, less to maintain in the long run. It's a lesser cost from what the original estimates were, but I don't want to go too much longer and end up with concerns with, failing wall and a roadway and potential for damage and harm. So I'm requesting that budget amendment to get the work done. They're hot to trot and ready to go as soon as we allow this to move forward, if it moves forward. And again, appreciation to the property owner for really working with us and coming up with a solution that's kind of good for both parties. And so I'm recommending approval of the budget amendment as well as the agreement, and I will stand for any questions you may have.
All right, any questions of Mr. Himmer there?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Geisler?
Mr. Chairman, are we maintaining the materials, because it's kind of like a stacked stone wall, isn't it? Or are we changing it or converting it to something else?
Councilmember Geisler, it's just going to be a boulder wall now, really just some very large boulder wall, so it'll go away from that stacked configuration.
Less likely to fail then, too?
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Griscoviak?
Looking at that area, first, there's a lot of property on Coon Rapids Boulevard between there and 94th that is ripe for redevelopment. It seems to me like it would make sense to redevelop that in conjunction with a project like this, or vice versa. The wall itself is that stacked stone. It seems like there's just one area where it's starting to crumble from forces from the other side. Are you going to redo the entire wall, or are you just going to do that sections where we're having issues? That's my first question.
Councilmember Skovic, the plan is to do the entire wall. If you just try to chunk it where the break is, you still have to dig back, you still have all the tree impacts, and being able to reduce the height of the wall will also be beneficial for us.
And then, I mean, are we going to be happy with a boulder wall right there when that's redeveloped? Is that going to be the right type of wall to have for redevelopment? I'm getting nods over here.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what everybody does. When you look at the really nice landscape projects, it's the big boulders, it seems. But
And the other
that's
thing.
probably a question for you, Mr. Hammer. I was just jumping ahead.
Well, we found, aside from the aesthetics, the price was less, and it gets away from the stacking and the tiebacks and all the engineering that goes with that extra work. I mean, ideally, quite frankly, I'd like to vacate the roadway and allow redevelopment to occur in between there, that hope for, promise for youth or something that, that's a consideration that could be there, but there's just too many property owners, and how long are you gonna wait? And it's only a matter of time, so that's why we wanna move this forward now.
Okay. No, that's a good point on maybe vacating the roadway, because I wouldn't think there'd be very many cars passing through there in any one day. And then lastly, I did look at this because a $125,000 budget amendment this late in the year kind of jumps out at me. But what was my question on that? Oh, the maintenance of that area in general back there. Doesn't look like we've ever done any maintenance to that wall. There's trees growing out of the wall, there's shrubs. It doesn't look like the city, I'm surprised it's even city property, the way it has been neglected. So is there gonna be, we're gonna maintain it once we rebuild it, so it's gonna look decent? Another concern of mine.
Yeah, Councilmember Skoviak, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to talk to the property owners out there. The one in particular with this access agreement is very clear that, we'll plant some native vegetation in there, we'll put up some trees. That way he has his screening, he's able to go out and still enjoy his backyard and have something that's maintainable. A little further to the west, it tails out on that adjacent lot. So we were able to handle that just within the existing right-of-way. And this was a strange scenario in that it's not platted, it's part of an auditor subdivision, so we don't have dedicated right-of-way. It was acquired over time for the roadway. So we've already got a narrower corridor, and that's why I think some of the neglect has been there. Not to mention the overhead power lines are directly above it, and trying to, they go in and just chop down what's good for them, and the property owners just don't go back there because they like the full lush growth and the screening. So this will kind of open the area up a little bit, but the idea is to make it easier for them to maintain such that everything up above there. So we're responsible for the wall, that is for sure. But the mowing and the maintenance on the landscaping component is the residents' responsibility.
Got it. And then lastly, a question, maybe just a follow-up for the council. I mean, we're looking at our revolving construction fund, and it's getting down there a little bit. Is everyone comfortable with using the money out of that revolving construction fund for this, or should it be in the 2027 budget? Yeah, 2027, because we can't.
Because we've already done 2026.
2026.
Yeah. But no, I'm good with it. I mean, I think this emergency repairs are things you pull out of that. But that neighborhood is kind of an unusual neighborhood. It was kind of an orphan neighborhood that was primarily owned by one company that originally was planning, they were hoping to develop the whole neighborhood. So most of those were rental properties for over 30 years. And it wasn't until 2018 that they started selling off all the homes and bringing it back to single-family ownership. We didn't even know what to do with the street reconstruction however many years ago, because there was no curbs or anything in there. So it was like, how are you gonna redo this? But, so there's gonna be some unusual things, I think, that'll pop up now that it's primarily owner occupied again.
Got it.
But
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Carlson?
I'm also good with it, given the situation. If something comes up, then something comes up. We'll figure it out.
You okay? You can vote no. All right, any other questions of Mr. Hammer on this?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Butler?
I move that council approve the access agreement and adopt resolution 25-116, amending the 2025 revolving construction fund budget to complete emergency replacement of a failing retaining wall.
Second.
Motion by Butler and a second by Geisler. Is there further discussion on this?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Skoviak?
for Mr. Hammer, I should have asked this before the motion, but did we get a quote to just try to do the repairs? Because there's a stacking, flat rocks. We have them further down on Coon Rapids Boulevard, the same type of rocks. They just, stack up, and these are cemented together. Did we get a quote to try to repair the failing section?
Councilmember Skoviak, we received multiple quotes in looking at it any different way, but there's this crack right down the middle of that wall. So you can't just fix half of it and tie it back in because the wall supports itself. And now that the wall has failed, you have to, anything you do has to get tied back into what's around it. And because of that vegetation and because of that small area, once you open up the center, you're basically excavating 80% of it.
Making it a lot harder for me to vote no.
I also think because the commercial properties you were talking about between 94th and Coon Rapids Boulevard, something ultimately has to happen there. And for this to actually be a nice-looking wall now,
Yeah.
I think actually would help that project, but.
And
we've
I will
got-
add that those are the properties that were agreeable also to allow us to stage on their site such that the roadway doesn't get closed and we're able to access it. So that they've been good as well, just to allow us to stage on their site.
All right. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries unanimously, Mr. Hamer.
Thank you.
All right, we're up to the open mic, public comment portion of the meeting. Is anybody here to address council for open mic this evening? Anybody here for open mic? All right, we'll close that, and I don't have any reports on previous open mics. And we're up to other business. And we've got a open house coming up Saturday. I can't believe it's already time for that. It's like, oh my gosh, where did the year go? Fire Department open house on Saturday, October 11th. There it is, look at that. Fire Station 3, 3150 111th Avenue. This is right across from the Anoka Ramsey Community College on Mississippi Boulevard. And, 10 a.m. to noon. Meet the firefighters, see the fire trucks. They usually have the helicopter come in, emergency vehicles, safety demos, Sparky the fire dog, spray a real fire hose as opposed to a fake hose, I don't know. And then the police are getting involved with the K-9 team. Nice. It really is a great event, and the kids love it, and people, come out and see where a lot of your property tax money goes, Stuff is expensive. Other business? Rocky's Pumpkin Patch, we have a meeting in between now and then? Nope.
Oh, actually.
There it is.
October 18th.
Saturday, October 18th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Sand Creek Park. Every child receives a pumpkin. They'll be playing musical chairs, prizes, candy, inflatables, face painting, games, free photo booth, trick-or-treating, and it's close together. I mean, it's like tent to tent to tent, and there's a lot of candy there. So it's a target-rich environment for trick-or-treating. So make sure you come out to that, and you probably want to get out there early because it gets to be a pretty good lineup around when it opens up. That's October 18th, 10 to 1, St. Creek Park. Rocky's Pumpkin Patch.
And then you're going to want to zip over to Riverdale right after that.
And then you're going to want to zip over to Riverdale for the Tiny Tim Exotic Animals or whatever that was.
Something like that.
Spectacular.
Spectacular.
All right. Any other business to come before council?
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion by Carlson and a second by Butler to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.